So the title of my presentation is MK Ultra and Cybernetics: The Shadows of Psychosurgery and Artificial Intelligence. So if you want to go to the second slide. Okay, so there's going to be about 5-10 second delay, I believe, is what it works out to be. So just real quick, a little bit about myself, who I am. My name is Jacob Johnson. I am a podcaster, investigative journalist, parapolitical researcher, and I have a focus specifically on MK Ultra and mind control. That's what I specifically focus on, although that's not the only thing that I do research. So I do host my own podcast, which is Rise to Liberty podcast. I used to cover third-party politics. That's, not of interest quite as much anymore. I think there's just more important things to focus on. Like Jen said, I am involved with the Libertarian Party, although I run communications for them. I've ran on the Libertarian ticket a couple of times. It was a really interesting learning curve, but it's probably not something that I will do again. I think running for office is great, but libertarians aren't that great at winning office. So I am also a producer of a parapolitical call-in show. It's called Already Dead, and it's kind of like a commentary upon people who stood up against the state and paid the ultimate price for it. People like Gary Webb, who was an investigative journalist and exposed the crimes of the CIA. And ultimately, I am a radical liberty and privacy advocate. That is what I care about the most. I don't really care where it comes from. Liberty and privacy are the two most important things to me. Now, without privacy, there is no liberty, period. Liberty cannot exist without the privacy. So, like Jen was saying, the Fourth Amendment is of the utmost importance. Of course, all first 10 amendments of the Constitution is definitely of the utmost importance as well. Let's see here. So tonight, I really wanted to focus on a story that connects three seemingly unrelated things. And those three things actually are Nazi medical experiments, CIA mind control programs, and the smartphone in your pocket. This isn't fantasy or science fiction. This is actually based upon documented history, over 15,000 declassified documents obtained through FOIA requests. They were actually obtained back in the 70s and are fully available for anyone to go review. Anyone that wants to go look at them, they're there. So for about 70 years, from the end of World War II to today, there has been a continuous line of research aimed at understanding the human brain, not as the seat of consciousness or the soul, but as a programmable machine. Tonight, we'll trace that line from the surgical theaters of Yale University in the 1960s to the clean rooms of Silicon Valley today. The question isn't whether this technology exists. It does. This is a very real thing. The question is how did we get here, and what does it mean for the future of human consciousness and humanity itself? Now, the reason why this actually matters is to go so far back, because the hope is that by exposing these things, that they won't be able to do this again. Because, yes, this happened over 70 years ago, 80 years ago, but there's so many people that don't know, and we need to know, so that way we can pick up on these things in the future. We can stop them from doing these things. It makes it harder for the people who have terrible intentions for us. All right, if you want to switch to the next slide. So first, let's get some definitions out of the way real quick. Are they not? Right, yeah, and they are on YouTube. Anybody that wants the presentation, I'd be more than happy to. Also, I will be doing another presentation with the full presentation. The delay. Okay. If you want to, just keep it on the slides on YouTube, I guess. Okay, perfect. So let's get through a couple of definitions. So AI is an umbrella term encompassing a variety of technologies, including machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processing. Many disagree whether this constitutes actual artificial intelligence. AI allows computer systems to simulate human processes. Now, these technologies, such as machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processing, they mimic us, but it's not us. Okay, that is what they are trying to do. Is they are trying to copy us, but they can't. We are divine beings, created by created by our Lord. So they can't actually mimic that. So they are going to fail miserably. Luckily for us. But that does not stop them from trying. So artificial intelligence is the theory and the development of computer systems capable of performing tasks that historically required human intelligence, such as recognizing speech, making decisions, and identifying patterns. AI, like I said, is actually an umbrella term. Let's see here. Although the humanoid robots often associated with AI, think Star Trek or Terminator T-800, these sorts of things, they don't quite exist yet. They are on the horizon, and they are not far off. You've likely interacted with machine learning powered services or devices. They're pretty much everywhere. Now, the problem with these is that they are only good as the information being put in to them. And unfortunately, the data is incredibly faulty being put into them. So I don't know about you guys, but I think it's kind of a bad idea to base our entire society on a system that's only as good as the information being put in, and the information's terrible. It just sounds terrible to me. Just to give you a couple of examples, ChatGPT uses language models, LLMs, to generate text in response to questions or comments posed to it. Google Translate uses deep learning algorithms to translate text from one language to another. Netflix uses machine learning algorithms to create personalized recommendation engines for users based on their previous viewing history. So these are the types of things that AI are being used for currently on the civilian side. They are being used for human targeting on the military side currently right now in different parts of the world. Now, where things get really scary is what's known as AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. Artificial general intelligence refers to a theoretical state in which computer systems will be able to achieve or exceed human intelligence. In other words, AGI is true artificial intelligence. If or when AGI is reached, AI systems will basically become one, and it will be smarter than every living human being put together. And at that point, it starts raising some serious questions. If it's not aligned with us, then it has the possibility of taking us out. And that's a really scary proposition, in my opinion. As for the precise meaning of AI, researchers don't quite agree on how we would recognize true artificial general intelligence when it appears. However, the most famous approach to identifying whether a machine is intelligent or not is known as the Turing test, or the imitation game, a experiment that was first outlined by influential mathematician, computer scientist Alan Turing in the 1950 paper on computer intelligence. Turing described a 3-player game in which a human integrator is asked to communicate via text with another human and a machine and judge who composed each response. If the interrogator cannot reliably identify the human, then Turing says the machine can be said to be intelligent. Now, there's a couple of terms that you might come across: strong AI versus weak AI. Strong AI is essentially an AI that is capable of human-level general intelligence, what we were just discussing. Weak AI, meanwhile, refers to the narrow use of widely available AI technology, basically any program that has an integrated AI today, so which is practically all of them. So just real quick before we move on from this, there are 4 types of AI. There are reactive machines, are the most basic type of artificial intelligence. Machines built in this way don't process any knowledge of previous events, but instead only react to what is before them in any given moment. You have limited memory machines, machines with very limited memory processes, which understand past events. They can interact more with the world around them than reactive machines can. For example, self-driving cars use a form of limited memory to make turns, observe approaching vehicles, and adjust their speed. There is also theory of mind machines. Machines that process a theory of mind represent an early form of artificial general intelligence. In addition to being able to create representations of the world, machines of this type would also have an understanding of other entities that exist within the world. As of this moment, this reality still is not materialized. Then you also have self-aware machines. Machines with self-awareness are the theoretical most advanced type of AI and would possess an understanding of the world, others, and themselves. This is typically what most people mean when they say AI. This is obviously what would concern all of us the most, especially if this is not aligned with us. So, to put simply, machine learning uses algorithms trained on data sets to create machine learning models, allowing computers to perform tasks like humans, but not humans. If you want to change to the next slide. So the next definition, and this will be a lot quicker, is cybernetics. Cybernetics is a transdisciplinary study of circular causal processes such as feedback and recursion, where the effects of a system's output return as inputs to the system, influencing subsequent action. What? To put it more simply, cybernetics is the science of communications and automatic control systems in both machines and living beings. So think Neuralink. It's a brain chip interface that connects directly into your brain, and it computes in between the brain chip and your brain. That is the study of cybernetics. It basically turns us into cyborgs. Half human, half machine. And in my opinion, a crime against God, which is just terrifying to me. And if you want to switch to the next slide, The last definition to go through real quick, and this is kind of really the beginning of what we're going to be talking about, is MK Ultra, is the basics. MK Ultra, for anyone who does not know, is a clandestine operation or a secretive black operation that was spearheaded by the Central Intelligence Agency. It was illegal experimentation on humans, which developed procedures for mind control, psychological and physical torture, and behavior modification for individuals and the masses. It officially started 72 years ago. It was signed into operation by then CIA Director Alan Dulles on April 13th, 1953. Officially, it ended in 1973, and on the books ran for a period of 20 years. Yes, so it actually did never end, and it actually started much sooner than 1953, but this is what the official reports say. And she also exposed the existence of Operation Mockingbird as well, which is, the media lying to all of us. And that also includes alternative media, so be very careful about who you actually listen to these days. So MK Ultra started actually a little bit before this in 1945 with Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was Nazi recruitment, which was slated as a secret U.S. intelligence program, which ended up seeing close to 1,600 former Nazis coming into the United States and being employed by our government, and they fully knew. These people, they were scientists, engineers, technicians, doctors. A lot of these men also brought their families as well. These Nazis included some of Adolf Hitler's closest collaborators, including men responsible for murder, slavery, human experimentation, and mind control. Many of these men came from the SS, but all of them were acquitted of war crimes and men who never stood trial at all. Some of the men included Dr. Theodor Benzinger, who had been on a list of accused at the Nuremberg trials, Kurt Debus, former V-2 rocket scientist and later director of NASA, and of course, Wernher von Braun. So these men were instrumental in the formation and the existence of the NASA space program and the subsequent space race that followed. Operation Paperclip turned into what is known as Project Chatter. And this was a United States Navy program beginning in the fall of 1947 under the direction of Dr. Charles Savage, who was appointed by Dr. Theodor Benzinger, who we had just discussed. It focused on the identification and testing of drugs for the use in interrogation and recruitment of agents. The search included laboratory experiments in both animals and humans. Yes. Project Chatter. Yes. And the reason why this happened is because it took them a little while to be able to actually get all of these Germans integrated into society, because they can't just, bring them in and just say, good luck. They actually put them in certain jobs, certain locations. They moved them all around the country, and entire towns were built specifically for these people. And the very first iteration of their programs after they were integrated was Project Chatter. And then, after everything started going its own way, everyone was integrated, then came along Project Artichoke. Well, actually it started as Bluebird, but Bluebird quickly changed to Artichoke. Why? I don't know. It's just the way that things happened. So the slide that should be up right now is just MK Ultra basics, and it will show a couple of pictures. Actually, it should show a picture of the one of the groups of men that they brought over. Project Bluebird changed into Artichoke, and the reason why they called it Bluebird is because they had the intention of creating a truth-telling drug. That was the whole point, was interrogation. They wanted people to sing like a bluebird. So Project Artichoke, also referred to as Operation Artichoke, was a CIA project that researched interrogation methods and arose from Project Bluebird on August 20th, 1951, ran by the CIA Office of Scientific Intelligence. The project studied hypnosis, forced morphine addiction, and subsequent forced withdrawal, and the use of other drugs, among other methods, to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in subjects. Artichoke was a program of mind control that gathered together the intelligence divisions of the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, and the FBI. In addition, the scope of these projects were outlined in a memo dated January 1952. This memo, this Maury document, which you can find, I have the document number if anyone is curious. But in this document, it stated, can we get control of an individual to a point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation? So they had every intention of causing the most absolute harm to people. So Artichoke turned into MK Ultra, and this is where we come to in April 13th, 1953. There were other programs associated with this. This was by no means just one isolated incident. There were programs such as MK Search, which was a successor program to MK Ultra. There was MK Delta, a related program that involved the use of MK Ultra developed materials, drugs, and chemicals, covert operations such as harassment, discrediting, and destabilizing individuals, meaning electronic harassment and nasty phone calls, letters, all sorts of terrible things. They actually have a term for it. It's called targeted individuals, which is a very likely thing if you do something like I do, trying to expose a lot of these things. There were also MK Naomi, which was a joint CIA Army project focused on biological, chemical, and radiological weapons. It also included hallucinogens like LSD and nerve agents such as BZ, often overlapping with MK Ultra, and that some of the testing actually took place here in Utah out at Dugway Proving Grounds. And of course, there was there was Operation Midnight Climax, which I won't go into too much detail there, but they used they used women of the night to be able to manipulate men for information. And they fully did this, fully aware of what they were doing. They drugged the men, and they just wanted to see what it was. They videotaped it, recorded it, and the results of those tests are still classified today. MK Ultra was actually, it's an umbrella term, much like A.I. It is an umbrella term for 149 sub-projects. The sub-projects were mostly identified by numbers, sub-project 2, 56, 70, rather than unique names. These sub-projects covered a wide range of experiments. This is how we know the testing included drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and other behavior modification techniques. These tests were conducted at over 100 plus known institutions, including hospitals, mental institutions, prisons, universities, military bases, and even orphanages. Subproject 4, 15, and 19 were funding a contractor, a magician actually, to write a manual on various aspects of the magician's art, which could be used in covert operations. Subproject 23 was to synthesize new drugs and modify old ones. Subproject 29 was to fund work on hypnosis. The scope was increased to acquiring extensive psychological profiles of all subjects in an effort to develop significant keys to hypnotic susceptibility. Subproject 39 was to exploit the research of potential represented by a group of 142 criminal psychopaths confined to the Ionic State Hospital. The agency believed that patients had the same kind of motivation for withholding certain information that is comparable to operational interrogation situations. Subproject 77 explored the basic elements of two personalities, of not only two personalities, but theories set forth by David Saunders, and he attempted to integrate them. This is what is known as multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. Subproject 119, and this is where we get into tonight's subject really, is the activation of human behavior by remote means. A review of literature and scientific developments related to the recording, analysis, and interpretation of bioelectric signal from the human organism, or basically how to turn us into remote-controlled toys, in their view. If you want to switch to the next. Should be slide 7. It should be the Macy Cybernetics conferences. So the Macy Cybernetic conferences, and this is where we start getting into what we're actually seeing today. These conferences took place between 1946 and 1953. These were sponsored by the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation. They were interdisciplinary meetings aimed at developing a science for the human mind through concepts like feedback mechanisms, reflexivity, and neural networks. One interesting thing that came out of this is actually the development of cell phone tower structures. What I mean by that is where they are placed. If you look at them above, they look like neural connections. And same thing with radar, all kinds of electronic technology. And the reason why this happened is because they figured that this was the best way to build these systems. The reason why is because it was created in our minds first. And it has been highly successful ever since. So, although these programs weren't necessary, or these conferences weren't necessarily meant as mind control or MK Ultra conferences, there were over 50 participants that went on to be MK Ultra contractors. So these people had every intention of carrying on what they were discussing in these conferences into the real world, and they did. They were very successful at it. Let's see here. So, of course, a lot of these conferences covered mind control, behavior modification, and psychoactive drugs like LSD for interrogation and psychological manipulation. These connections primarily involve funding channels, shared participants, thematic overlaps in research on mind and behavior, and historical networks tying academic science to intelligence operations. Not for this. So, yes. Everyone does. Yes, the radiological experimentations. It happened in 1995. Mm-hmm. Right. No, you're totally fine. One thing I do kind of want to piggyback off of that. I I don't want any of this to be true. This is not something I enjoy. I don't I don't like this. The reason I find it important is because this affects every single one of us. And let me tell you, it's incredibly boring to go through a lot of these documents. So, and I've spent countless hours going through this. Thank you. Thank you. So I did try to make this as entertaining as possible, but unfortunately, a lot of these people are incredibly boring people. Um, of course. So that was under MK Ultra, and it was Sub Project 119. Yeah, there's a lot of these that have continued on. There's many of them, which we'll actually get to in at the very end with the conclusion. Um, so there was a lot of these conferences where they talked about things that they are doing today. Discussion on reverberating neural loops, um, which I didn't really include in a way to be able to explain this, but reverberating neural loop is basically a positive feedback loop. It's what AI is. If you go interact with an AI model and you're nice to it, it will act nice to you. That's why a lot of people are developing such issues as I believe they call it artificial intelligence psychosis, I believe. And they're experiencing a lot of really negative side effects because imagine if you just had a yes man with you 100% of the time and it never called you on any of the bad things that you were doing. And it just said, yes, this is great all the time, just constantly. And even if you propose a bad idea to it, it will still tell you it's a good idea. Right. Right. Exactly. And so that's what a reverberating neural feedback loop is. Um, and they were talking about this in the 40s and 50s. Um, Claude Shannon's information theory and Donald McKay's idea on meaning and observer roles influence views on perception manipulation, aligning with MK Ultra's use of drugs to distort reality for interrogation. The broader application of cybernetics has an emphasis on systems that control extended to social engineering, which is social media algorithms. Social media algorithms dictate what you see. And what Facebook learned in, I believe it was 2008, or a little bit after that, maybe 2010, I want to say, they learned that posts on Facebook or Instagram get more shares and more likes if it makes you angry. And so what they do is they control your feed. They control what you see and what you don't see, more particularly. And they do this to be able to get your emotions high. You stay on there longer, which is what they want because they earn ad revenue off of that. Because anyone that uses these social media programs, you are the product. They are taking your data and selling it to people. And they are also using these algorithms to learn who you are as an individual. That way they can manipulate you. And they figured out all of these things back in the 50s. And the very fact that we are seeing these play out in actual life right now is why I think this is so important to know. If you want to go to the next slide. So, just real quick on the participant overlaps between both MKUltra and the Macy cybernetic conferences. Based on historical records, several participants participated in the cybernetic conferences, which 46 through 53, and related precursor meetings had a direct or indirect ties to CIA's MKUltra program, 53 through 73 officially, which focused on all the topics we've talked about before: mind control, behavior modification, and psychoactive drugs. These connections often involve funding through the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation. They also funded through the Human Ecology Foundation. You know, they would come in, they would infiltrate a university, set up a shell company, and the CIA would send funding to all sorts of researchers through a shell company. And so a lot of these researchers didn't even know where the money was coming from. Some of them did, though, and fully accepted it. So there's a man by the name of Harold Abramson. He's an allergist and a pediatrician, actually, or was. His role, Abramson, Abramson. His role in the Macy conferences is listed as a member or guest. He introduced LSD to many cybernetic groups in the 1950s, served as reporting secretary, participated in the 1955 Neural Pharmacology Conference, and he attended and helped fund the Macy-sponsored International LSD Therapy Conference. He was a key contractor in MKUltra, led sub-projects 7, 27, and 40. He received over $85,000 in 1953, funneled through the Macy Foundation to study LSD effects on unwitting hospital patients. Had no clue, did not give their consent. There's also other people like Gregory Bateson, was an anthropologist and systems theorist, was a core participant across multiple conferences, attended the 1942 Cerebral Inhibition meeting. He discussed reflexivity, feedback loops, and behavioral patterns, received LSD from Abramson in 1959. His role in MKUltra was indirect involvement through the OSS, which is the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA. He was a psychological warfare expert, which is about the scariest thing I can think of. So he was highly involved in early truth serum research, and he was involved in the Committee for National Morale, which isn't that hilarious? So he has casual ties to the CIA, drug promotion, including arranging LSD for Allen Ginsberg, poet, you know, from the 60s, beatnik poet. after his own Macy-linked exposure, funded by the Macy Foundation for related work, later expressed ethical horror at deceitful methods that they used. And then you have Margaret Mead, who was an anthropologist, role in Macy conferences. Yeah, ladies, you don't get by on this one. There were women involved in this as well. So she attended the 1942 Cerebral Inhibition meeting. She was a central figure in cybernetics, and she also was a participant in the 1968 American Society for Cybernetics Symposium, funded by the Macy Foundation for related work. She observed LSD experiments. She was a consultant on Abronson's LSD studies. And she was also involved in subprojects 55, 98, 56, 62, and 63. Let's see. So several Macy Cybernetics Conference attendees or affiliates later contributed to MKUltra, much like we had discussed. Let's see. Nope. Yes. Perfect. Let's see. If you want to go to slide number 9. This is a person that's going to be of some of the utmost importance. This is a man by the name of Dr. Jose Delgado. And he comes directly from Yale University. Jose Delgado was a pioneer of surgical mind control. He developed remote-controlled brain electrodes in humans and animals. He created what we call mechanical toys, and that's what he called them in his books. Cats, monkeys, all controlled by radio transmitters. He published a book called Physical Control of the Mind Toward a Psycho-Civilized Society. So he's one of the pioneers of exactly what we're seeing today. Yes, yes, he was. And he was also funded by the Office of Naval Research, the Air Force, and Public Health Services. The book is actually called, yes, Physical Control of the Mind. One of his key cases was actually an 11-year-old boy who he created brain stimulation caused gender identity confusion. Isn't that interesting? The boy later ended up saying, I was confused whether I was thinking I was a boy or a girl. There was also a 14-year-old girl with electrodes implanted in her amygdala for violent behavior after killing some foster siblings. And the idea was that they could quell violent tendencies through implanting these electrodes into their brain. Right, exactly. And mind you, these were children. They can't consent. Children cannot consent. So he was a Yale neurosurgeon, respected academic, and one of the founding fathers of what we now call the brain-computer interface. Dr. Delgado received funding from the Office of Naval Research, Air Force, Public Health Services. His work wasn't theoretical, though. In 1965, Dr. Delgado stood in a building in Spain. A massive bull charged towards him. At the last second, he pressed a button on a small radio transmitter, and the bull stopped mid-charge. Controlled by electrodes, Delgado had implanted in its brain. He called this the new neurological vista for the control of cerebral function. But Delgado's most disturbing work wasn't with animals. From his own published research, quote, In one patient, an 11-year-old boy, electrical stimulation of the superior temporal convulsion induced the appearance of feminine striving and confusion about his own sexual identity. The patient said, "I was thinking whether I was a girl or a boy, which one I'd like to be, and then I'd like to be a girl." This wasn't therapy, this was proof of concept. Delgado was demonstrating that core aspects of human identity, gender, sexuality, personality itself, could be altered by electrical stimulation of specific brain regions. Now, think about this for a moment. These weren't adults who could consent to experimental surgery. These were children. The researchers were using them as test platforms for developing technologies of neural control. If you want to go to the next slide, actually skip from 10 to 11. There are videos out there of the bull incident, so if anyone does want to see those, you can find them. You can just look them up on YouTube, Dr. Delgado, bull, and it will pull it up. Yes, ma'am. So what the MKUltra researchers discovered was revolutionary. The brain operates like a distributed computer network. Different regions handle different functions, and by stimulating specific areas, you could access and modify distinct aspects of personality and behavior. Dr. Colin Ross, who analyzed thousands of pages of MKUltra documents, identified the key insight: multiple personality disorder. What we now call dissociative identity disorder, revealed that the brain naturally operates with multiple separable processing systems. The researchers realized they could artificially create these separate programs or personalities, which was one of the main functions of MKUltra, was to be able to split your personality into an entirely separate person. Now, what's really interesting about these separate personalities is that each personality can be programmed to not know of each other, which is an entirely scary concept if you start thinking of the implications of some of these psychopaths that would have a hold of you. So think of it in modern terms. They discovered the brain runs multiple user accounts on the same hardware. Memory erasure was like formatting a hard drive. Personality implementation was like installing new software. And electrode stimulation was like having root access to the operating system. Today we call this therapeutic deep brain stimulation. Same electrodes, same brain regions, same principles, just marketed differently. Let's see. Okay, so yes. Therapeutic deep brain stimulation. So this is actually a step past electroshock. Yeah. So, and this is my conclusion on this. So, the AI connection to all of this. The artificial intelligence revolution and the mind control research were not separate projects. They were intimately connected. MIT, which received MKUltra funding, was simultaneously developing both AI systems and theories of human consciousness as conceptual processes. Marvin Minsky, the father of artificial intelligence, was funded by the Office of Naval Research throughout his career. His seminal book, titled The Society of Mind, described human consciousness as a collection of interacting sub-processes, essentially artificial personalities running on biological hardware or human bodies. Minsky's model of mind as distributed parallel processing directly mirrors what the MKUltra researchers discovered about multiple personality disorder. The brain runs multiple programs simultaneously, and these can be accessed, modified, or replaced. The ultimate goal of all of this, of MKUltra, cybernetics, AI, the ultimate goal is stated openly in the literature, which is cybernetic organisms, cyborgs, eventually to turn us into full robots, downloading our memory into a computer program so we could live forever. Although they don't want us doing that. They want to do that. And they want to keep a few of us around so we can keep up the systems, but the people developing want to do this, not us. We're the little peons. So the ultimate goal is cybernetic organisms, hybrid biological artificial systems, where the boundary between human and machine intelligence disappears. And this is what they have been working on this entire time. Now, the ultimate conclusion, I'm going to end on a list of AI dangers, and lastly, what we can actually do about this. The top dangers is AI being used in warfare. What the danger is autonomous AI weapons can make lethal decisions without human oversight, potentially leading to unintended escalations or attacks due to error or hacking. It's dangerous because the absence of human control increases the risk of civilian casualties and destabilizes global security. One of the next biggest dangers is AI surpassing human intelligence, as we discussed earlier. The danger is super intelligent AI could exceed human cognitive abilities and act unpredictably, pursuing goals that conflict with human survival if its objectives are misaligned with our own values. It's dangerous because such a system might outsmart any attempts to control it, potentially leading to humanity's obsolescence or extinction itself. The processes are an existential threat if we cannot ensure its alignment with human well-being. Security risks, hacking and manipulation, AI systems managing critical infrastructure like power grids, financial networks, or transportation can be hacked or manipulated, causing widespread disruptions. Breaches could trigger chaos such as blackouts, financial crashes, or transportation failures, threatening national security and public safety on a massive scale. Of course, the ethical concerns. AI systems trained on biased data or designed without ethical oversight can perpetuate societal inequalities such as unfair loan denials or discriminatory policing practices. Obviously, this is dangerous because it amplifies the systemic injustice, like actual systemic injustice to all of us. This erodes trust in institutions and violates human rights. There's societal impacts. AI-driven automation can displace workers across industries, leading to mass unemployment and economic inequality if societies fail to adapt. Widespread job loss could destabilize economies, increasing poverty and spark social unrest. AI being used to manipulate public opinion or create deepfakes. AI can produce realistic deepfakes or power disinformation campaigns to influence elections, defame individuals, or sow division. This undermines trust in media and institutions, which I don't trust the media. I don't think anyone else here does either. This weakens democracy, polarizes societies by blurring the line between truth and fiction. Now, the two things that I think make this the most dangerous is the dangerous impact of AI on privacy. The danger is that AI-powered surveillance systems can monitor and track individuals on an unprecedented scale, collecting vast amounts of personal data without consent. Technologies like facial recognition, predictive policing, and social credit systems enable the intrusion. This is dangerous because the loss of privacy, constant monitoring creates a chilling effect where people self-censor their speech, actions, or associations out of fear of being watched or judged. This stifles free expression and the ability to dissent. AI can enforce conformity and predict and punish actions before they happen, undermining personal autonomy and the presumption of innocence. For example, social credit systems could penalize individuals for undesirable behavior. And who decides that? Who decides what's undesirable? You? Me? The erosion of freedom. Mass surveillance empowers authoritarian control, allowing governments and corporations to manipulate individuals based on their data. This threatens democratic values and individual rights, potentially leading to a surveillance state where liberty is traded for supposed security. Now the question is what do we do about all of this? Well, you've got to ask yourself that. And this is up to you to decide how far or what you're willing to do. What matters most to you? Do your rights actually matter? Do some matter and others don't? That's all up for you to decide, you and your family. You need to have these conversations. Now, there are things that we can do. There are people out there fighting back against this. There are technologies being built that actually fight back against this, because not everyone wants this future. I can't imagine any of you in this building right now would want a future where we're constantly monitored, where we have brain chips implanted in us, we're told what to do, where your children are not your children because they're owned by the state. I can't imagine this is the future that anyone wants. So the best thing for any tyrannical action is civil disobedience. Now, that doesn't mean violent by any means. Peace should always be the number one option, right? Hate begets hate. So, and besides, the state knows how to respond to violence. They are violence. So we have to answer to this in a peaceful manner. Now, I'm not a huge fan of people like Gandhi or MLK Jr., but they did have the nonviolent thing under, they really had it figured out, I would say. Because this is how we have to respond to all of this. And the best way that we can do that is just, like Jen said earlier, don't comply. They can't harm all of us. And the more of us that don't comply, what are they going to do? Force it on us? They can't. We have numbers. So that's the number one thing. Now, as far as specifics, as far as what technologies, we kind of don't have time to go into a lot of that today. But I'd be more than willing to talk to anybody about mesh networks, which are basically private cell phone networks and private internet to be able to send communications and all sorts of information in between people. These are things that we can set up in what's called Liberty Enclaves. This group right here would set up their own. You would have one in the next county, and both of those can communicate. Basically, what I'm trying to say is we just don't participate. That is the easiest way. Now, it's not going to be easy. But this is what we have to do. Because what's the alternative? Slavery. Now, I take a pretty radical position on this, and this is where I'll end. I am of the mind that I'll die on my feet before I live on my knees. Everyone might not feel the exact same way, but all of us together in numbers, we can actually defeat this. But it takes all of us doing this. So really, things like this, I love seeing this, and I want to thank all of you for having me here and listening to me drone on about all of these things, because this is actually what's going to make a difference. So on that, of course. Right. 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 So these are tracking devices. These are the implants that will eventually get implanted into us. But right now, we're willingly carrying around our own surveillance devices. So keep that in mind. Yes. Yes.
In fact, just this week, there was a massive AI cyber attack of dozens of companies to steal our data.
Yes. Yes, it happens all the time. Data leaks happen all the time. And unfortunately, this is just one of the things that we have to deal with if we're going to participate in the digital world. Yes, sir.
The liberals, progressives have been doing it for decades before AI.
Yeah, yes. Yes. Well, and I am of the mind, you have people who are for liberty, and you have people that are for slavery. I don't really look at it left and right these days, especially after trying to run for office and all of these other things. And you're either for liberty, for freedom, or you're for slavery. And right now, the current system that we have, if you're backing it up, you're backing up slavery. So thank you all for listening to this. If you guys have any questions or want to talk or anything else, I'd be more than willing to talk to anybody. And there's a lot more info I couldn't get to tonight, but thank you so much.